Sing
Variety Hour.
Variety Hour.
That was fun.
That was fun.
That was a nice little duet.
How you doing,
That
my
was a
friend?
little bouncing step.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Garrett.
Hi, I'm Adam. This is Social Distancing Variety Hour. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm well. I'm well. It was a nice weekend. It was actually a pretty
It
packed full
was.
weekend.
Yeah, and I got to see you out in the world this weekend, which is always
Yeah.
a very special treat.
Yeah, we were both out with the wives and ran into each other at the city gallery.
Yeah, at their Art for Ukraine fundraiser, which was a very cool event.
Yes.
And the the fabulous Lola had a piece in the show that she made to donate and brought in some good bucks for the cause. I understand.
Yes, exactly. Her piece sold and sold for I believe there's like eight. I believe it fed and sheltered eight families or eight people for the donation that it was sold for. So it went to a good cause, and
That's
she was.
awesome. And we got a cool little piece by friend of the program, Fred Krueger. He
Mhm.
made some cool little collages, and we got one of those. I was excited about it already when he posted it on the
Ready?
socials, and then I
Yeah,
saw it in person, and it's this big, and
yeah.
that made me even happier about
the,
it.
the picture, like when if you look
Yeah.
like on the picture on social media, it looks like this
Oh,
gigantic
I'm
piece.
gonna have to find it so
And
I
then it
can
was like
share it
literally,
up
it was
here.
like in the palm of your hand. You could
Yeah.
hold it in the palm of your hand. It was like this minute. It was
Yeah,
really good. Yeah.
it's like a playing card.
Props out to Freddie Krueger, friend of the program from the
Absolutely.
Jargonauts and numerous other bands, Full Line and tons of others.
The Indeterminates with yours truly.
Yes, there's been a bunch.
There have
Freddie's
been a
been in
bunch.
Fall Risk and
That's
all tons
true.
of Telephonics, and a bunch
Yeah.
of bands. Freddie's he's a vet.
Telephonics still one of my very favorite Erie bands ever.
How could they not be? Yeah,
I'm trying to find
classics
it.
never die, my friend. The
Yeah, that's
classics
true.
never die.
So here
But yeah, it
is
was there was and that day was fun. That day was kind of strange. Not
yeah.
strange. I don't mean strange like.
So
But
there's my piece from Fred Krueger that we bought at the Ukraine
there you go.
fundraiser. Looks like a serious piece of work when you see it on Facebook. But
Oh, it's
yeah,
serious.
yeah, it's serious and it's tiny. Like
It
the
is
actual
literally
framed
like.
piece is about the size of a playing card. Uh,
Yep,
but
good stuff.
yeah, good stuff. I'll have to find Lola's. We can show Lola's too. I think you posted that, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah,
But
I'll
yeah,
go find
it
that.
was there was a bunch of really good. Brad Ford had a really great piece. Now at the same time, like Brad Ford's was like the opposite, where like I saw the picture of it on social media, and then when I went and saw it in person, it's this big, massive
Yeah,
piece. And I was like, holy cow, that's
yeah,
huge.
it's big.
Yeah,
Um, and there were some other very cool pieces too. Some by artists I knew, and some by artists that I was not previously acquainted with.
yeah. Matt Texter played. It was great,
Yeah,
and friend of the program, Dave. I'm forgetting his
downtown
last
Dave,
name. Say what?
downtown Dave,
Downtown Dave. Yes, okay.
Dave Tamalonis.
That's right. I could never like. I
Yeah,
always mess up his last name.
yeah.
But
Dave was sitting in with Matt Texter. Friend of the program, Steve Trahosky joined them for a few. There's Lola's piece, "Burning Nightingale's Survival." Um,
yeah, she was really. I was really, and it was such a short time frame. She's
yeah,
like, "Yeah, I think I have an idea. I'll go grab a canvas." And so we got a canvas, and you know, within like a day and a half, I came home from work. Like, is it done? Is it done? Can I take a look at it? And when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great!" And she was all like, typical Lola fashion. Lola was like, "Oh shucks, well,
yeah.
there's a couple parts that didn't turn out the way I liked, but And I was like, "Oh, you're far too humble." I'm really proud of her. She did a really great job, and as did all the artists.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was for a great cause.
Yeah,
Steve and Lena down at.
I saw Steve posted that they raised something like $2,500 to support folks in Ukraine. So
Yes, folks fleeing the war and brought upon them in Ukraine. So there'll be going to a good cause and to help people survive and
Did you
thrive.
guys
And
end up going to the uh the the weirdo art show at BT afterwards?
the
Yeah.
strangeness Erie exhibit
Yeah,
at Basement Transmissions.
I'm failing on the name, but yeah,
We did,
put on
we did
by
this.
Erie Eric and friends and lots of cryptozoology and alien stuff, and you can get your tarot read and all sorts of fun. Did you guys find any fun goodies there?
There was some cool. Uh, Samantha Siparsky had some cool
Hmm.
like Ouija board, like
Oh,
somewhere like Ouija board keychains.
little
They were like
planchet things.
resin. Yeah, they were like resin things, and those were really cool. That I thought there was a bunch of really cool stuff. Uh, there was like some like Men in Black,
Uh huh.
they all had like oh what's the like Art Deco like weaponry,
Yeah,
you
sort of
know, like all
space,
these
very
like
space
laser
age,
guns and stuff, and it was all like
very
hard metal.
retro space age stuff.
Yeah, I thought those were really cool.
The guys who had the theremin in their booth.
Yeah, I kind of stepped in and
did
started
you
playing
play
the
the
theremin. They're like,
theremin?
"Wow, you're really good at that." I'm like, "Yeah, well, you know, thanks." I didn't, I didn't have
Did
the
you
heart
tell
to
them
tell them like,
that I
"Oh
tipped you
yeah,
off that
yeah."
there
I
might
tell
be
you
a
what,
theremin in the building?
I'm like this theremin god plays the theremin, you know. I was like, "Oh, theremin, I love these. These are great." It's like, "Go ahead, try it out." And I'm like, you
Or
know,
they like,
she's
this
like,
is
"Oh
how it
yeah,
works. You do this with this
you're
hand,
really
and you do
good."
this with that hand.
Yeah, she's like, "You're really good." I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
thanks."
thanks.
Yeah.
And then you went and saw Britt Floyd. I saw.
Yeah, I went to the Warner, and you know what? It was wild because it was one of those like confluence of things. There was like an Otters game at the. It was like for the first time in quite a long time. It was like I was out and about in
Yeah,
downtown Erie, and downtown Erie was really, hopping
full
and
of people
live.
doing this stuff, and
There was an Otters game, so like all the parking ramps and all the parking and all the Erie Insurance was packed to the gills, and then the Warner had Brit Floyd, the Pink Floyd tribute there, and that was kind of packed. And it was St. Patrick's Day, so there was all sorts of like college co-eds bar hopping
yeah,
in beads and green shirts and
it was
stuff.
sort of half St. Patrick's Day because they did postpone the parade from
Yeah,
last Saturday to next Saturday, but there was so much other stuff that's like, well, it's too late to postpone the Mulligans. It's too late to postpone, the green
yeah,
beer's already here. So,
yeah.
uh,
The Geek Army at the Molly Brannigan's and stuff, or what
yeah,
I think that was who was there.
something like
But
that.
so I mean, aside from it being like bitterly cold, we went to go park. We went to go on the one parking ramp and went all the way up and all the way down, and it was packed. And then we went to another one and went all the way up and finally found a spot. And then, it was nice. I was out with my mom and my oldest daughter, Gia, and we went to because Gia's a big Pink Floyd fan,
Well, that's
and we
cool.
went, and I must say, it was a excellent show. I have to give credit though to whoever the light design
Oh
folks
yeah,
were.
their light guy. I think they have a resident light guy who tours with them because
Yeah,
I've seen video of them from various venues. They have there's a very good video on YouTube of them from Red Rocks,
yeah,
which
that shit was
looks
top notch, man. The
spectacular.
laser show was
Yeah,
on
and
point.
they got the circular screen like like the '90s Floyd screen and
Oh yeah.
all
In fact,
self made videos and stuff,
I
and
think it
it's
might have been like, like we got the old '90s, we got the old circular screen from the '90s, a
yeah
discount. We got it at auction, you know what I mean? And we like repurposed it with lights and stuff.
yeah.
But it was a really good show, I mean, and when I say really good show, like there was a lot of like old Floyd heads who were like clearly this like concert etiquette had been lost on some of them, but there was a lot of like old Floyd heads, like I don't know if this is like something that like happens at like tribute shows, like if at the Led Zeppelin tribute show or the, whatever Journey tribute show or whatever, but like people just shout out random songs, like, the applause would clap and then like the crowd would die down and they'd be about to play the next song and some rando would shout out, you know, play Brick in the Wall. And it's like, yeah, man, it's a tribute
Yeah,
show, bro.
like they'll get
That's
to it.
gonna be on the set list,
Yeah,
man. But
yeah.
I
There's
was
there's a uh, there's a vintage Genesis tribute band called the Musical Box from Montreal who I've seen a bunch of times. And they actually like got lent the old slides and got lent the old costumes because they do like the old Peter Gabriel era shows when there were crazy
oh
costumes
yeah,
and
the makeup
theatrics
and
and
everything
stuff.
like
Yep.
that. That was probably the coolest iteration of Genesis.
Oh, absolutely. Um, but what they've deviated from it a little bit in the most recent years, but what they've mostly done is basically gone out and played specific tours and specific shows, kind of in the way that like Dark Star Orchestra does and things like
Yeah,
that.
we're gonna be this era of Genesis. We're
Right.
gonna play this set list from
Yeah.
the
So
1987 Pontiac Silverdome show.
well, but it was, but like the 1972 tour or 73 or 74.
Yeah,
Um, so you get people who are not quite with the program that this is the tour that they're doing, and I'm a nerd. I
yeah.
admit this with pride, and
They're shouting out songs that hadn't been written
yeah,
yet.
they're shouting out things that hadn't been written yet, or like, well, on this tour they never did that. So yeah, I understand. I see where you're coming from for
Yeah.
sure.
And I was like, come on, man. They're gonna play Breaking the Wall. Don't worry. Have some
Yeah,
patience.
like
I will say though, I was really surprised because they played, when I mean, as a Pink Floyd tribute band veteran, you know, you're
yes,
aware that like, all right, let's create the set list, right?
yes,
And you're like, all right, well, we got to have this one, and then we got to have money and time, and we got to
yeah,
have, you know, Dark Side of the Moon, and we got to have Brick in the Wall, and we got to have,
yeah,
Run Like Hell,
yeah,
So there's those 10 Pink Floyd songs that are the tip top, got to play Wish You Were Here,
yeah. That there will be words will be had if certain things don't get
Yeah, I
played.
mean, in your time being in the Dark Side or the Pink Floyd, the local Pink Floyd tribute band,
Yes,
you are aware of that,
I
right?
I am, and
I must say that had you been there, I think you would have been very, very surprised at the set list that they had
yeah, I've read through some of their set lists. Like I know
because it was not.
they get into like Final Cut stuff.
They only played. I'll tell you right now, they only played like 4 songs off Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
Right? They played Time, they played Money, they played Run Like Hell, and they played Comfortably Numb. Right?
Okay.
And then they played Brick in the Wall,
Yeah.
and they played what the other? I'm trying to think of the other off the wall,
Well,
not the Michael Jackson off the
comfortably
wall,
numb,
but the other.
and Run Like Hell are both from the Wall.
All right, my bad. I'm mixing
Yeah,
them up. But
that's all
anyway,
right.
they only played like 3 songs off Brick in the Wall, three or
Yeah.
four off. They didn't
Well, and
play like
they've done tours where they've done like played the Wall top to bottom, or significant chunks
of
of it. They've
course.
done the tours where they've played Dark Side the whole way through,
They played a
and
bunch of Momentary Lapse of Reason. The
yeah, I
first
was gonna
half of
say
the first set, I thought, oh,
they've done
this is
like
the
on the
Division
turn.
Bell
They've
tour.
done like on the Turning Away, and they do High Hopes, and they do a lot of like
Yeah,
80s 90s stuff, which I appreciate. I mean, that's far from my favorite stuff, but
I would say more than half of their songs were post Roger Waters, David Gilmour era.
yeah,
Oh, David Gilmour only era Floyd.
right.
And I was like,
Hmm.
they went off. They came out for their encore and they played Momentary Lapse of Reason, and I was like, this seems like an odd selection for an encore. I was expecting, you
Yeah,
know, I was expecting something else that they hadn't played yet,
right.
and and I think there was a few folks that were kind of like, they didn't play
Yeah.
whatever, and
Well, there's Floyd is a band with a deep catalog, and
exactly,
particularly when you got self-imposed things like Darksider will probably always play all of Dark Side of the Moon because it's like
yeah,
it's our bit. Um, Like it's a band that exists to play that in the first place. So
They're called Darksider
like
for a reason.
there will be words from both inside and outside the band if there's
Exactly.
any talk of not doing that. So like if and like we really, this past year, like we really stretched it out time-wise. Like I think that's probably among the longest sets that Darksider's done. I mean, we did three 40+ minute sets.
It was epic.
It was epic, and
Yeah.
there's rumblings afoot that epic stuff will hopefully happen again this year sometime.
Oh, good, good, good.
Um,
But yeah, here's another funny story from the show. So I'm sitting there, and it's like my mom, and then my daughter Gia, and then me, right? So
yeah.
my daughter's in the middle, and there's the one part during Break in the Wall because they can't show video. I assume they're that contractually you
Oh,
can't show
the
video
Gerald
of
Scarf
dark
stuff, the
yeah,
Gerald Scarf animations and all of that.
yeah, you can't
Yeah.
show the Pink Floyd The Wall like video clips,
Right.
on the little. So all of like the production on like there's the big circle screen in the back that everything's, and so everything is like I assume it's home generated or someone within the
Yeah.
Brit Floyd
They have a guy.
production
They have a guy
company.
in the organization who does it.
Yeah, that does all the video stuff. And so during the brick in the wall, in the movie, the wall, right? There's the whole like where the kids are walking on the kids have the mask face and they're
Oh,
walking along the
yep.
assembly line that feeds them into the sausage making machine, right?
Yeah.
Iconic, wall video. Well, they had that like 3D rendered type thing. And so it's similar,
Right.
but it's clearly not the. And so my daughter and I are sitting there, right? And like the one body walks by on the thing and then goes in the sausage. And the next one, and my daughter turns to me, she's like, Dad, is it me or was that just Gryffindor that just, and then like you notice they have like each child like had like the
Yeah.
one had the little collar that had the
Has
Gryffindor colors, and then that went into the sausage, and the next one had the Slytherin colors. Then the next one was the Hufflepuff.
10 points to Ravenclaw.
I'm like, oh my god, honey. I'm like, you're right. I'm like, Pink Floyd. I'm like, Brit Floyd is feeding
Is
Hogwarts
feeding
into the
Hogwarts
sausage machine.
students into
I'm
the
like, whoever
sausage
did the
making
3D
machine.
rendering when I gave this little, I think it was a little subtle, like,
Yeah.
oh, we'll make.
That's a good little Easter egg. I appreciate
It was a
things
little
like
Easter
that.
egg observation that my daughter and I both kind of picked up at the same time. We're like, oh my god, Gryffindor just went into the sausage maker.
So is your mom a fan?
Not really.
Okay.
I think my mom got free tickets, and
And just
it was like, hey,
enjoys a good
I'd love to
spectacle.
take you and I'd love to take you and Gia to that. And so I was like, awesome.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So
It was great. It was a great weekend.
what does your mom like? What's her musical taste?
My mom. This is a funny story. My mom, when I was born, my mom was going to name me Sly because she was a Sly and the Family Stone fan.
Oh
So
shit!
my
All
name
right.
was almost Sly, which would have been horrible during the '80s, during the
Yeah.
Rocky Rambo era. Me being,
Yeah. You
having the
being
feathered back hair, of the '80s
yeah.
would have been constantly referred to and compared to Sylvester Stallone, Sly Stallone,
Right.
and it would have been horrible. But you know, but yeah, my mom was like a Sly and the Family Stone song, or
Okay.
Doobie Brothers,
All right.
CCR.
Okay. So Floyd is not of the wrong era for her. It just wasn't
No. Floyd was
wasn't
totally,
particularly
that
her
was totally been in her
bag.
wheelhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, that totally would have been in her wheelhouse. But yeah, there's not a lot of Floyd growing up, though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was more like I said, Sly and the Family Stone, and
Yeah,
like
not a lot of
funk
Floyd,
era
not
like
a
that.
Floyd in my house either. I had to find Floyd through my hippie uncles,
Yeah,
who introduced me to the Who and Yes
yeah, a lot
and
of CCR
Genesis
and a
and
lot of
Floyd.
like I said, CCR and Doobie Brothers. I remember
Yeah,
when I was growing up.
yeah. We definitely had. There was definitely some healthy Doobie Brothers appreciation around my house
Yeah, the Doobs were big back then.
as a Ute.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we got a
Big
program
travesty.
tonight.
I know, right?
Yeah, we got Brian Morgante is going to be on the show, which I'm very excited to have Brian with us. Been trying to get Brian on the program for a while. Um,
Excellent.
Brian, great local musician who hasn't been playing a whole lot of music lately, which is a thing that I'm looking forward to talking about. And graphic designer, and been doing all sorts of graphic design for all sorts of heavy hitters, and every once in a while lowers himself to doing some stuff for me too. And Joe Kodba is also supposed to be with us. Not sure if Joe is going to make it or not. I have not heard from him today, unfortunately. So he may join us and he may not.
I hope he does.
I
I'm a
hope he
big
does too,
fan.
because that would be interesting as well. But Joe or no Joe, we're going to have ourselves a good time. And so let's put on a piece of music. Got some new music from C. Brown. And then we'll come back with at least Brian.
Oh yeah, C. Brown just finished up a set over at PACA from
Oh
earlier
yeah, he
tonight.
was on the
So yeah,
Pack Alive tonight, which I did not get a chance to see. But he also dropped a new video earlier this week, which we'll
sweet.
put on.
Love me some C. Brown, hardest
Ah,
working man in the business.
absolutely. This is a new freestyle called Johnny P's Caddy. So just sing right here.
If there's anything that I can teach you, it's to protect your energy. You can't afford to be dealing with people who always have something negative to say. Those folks who are just happy to be sad and think that's the way to live. Or those folks who never have anything good to talk about. I don't deal with low vibrations. Neither should you. Being a product of trauma will cost you everything you keep safe. And when nobody's sorry, you become responsible for each day. Hurt will make you move different, switch up crews, or become a recluse. See, the truth will set you free, that's the only key that I use. You'll mess up in life, trying to find you and someone else. Cause when they let you down, they take everything that you didn't give yourself. I've been so rooted in people who refuse to grow. Invested in bad spirits will help you lose your soul. I stray from my generation, the conversation is passive. The actions that y'all take will eradicate what should happen. You brag about leaving your city, but your mind is captive. You trying to find beauty in filters, that's not attractive. I've always had my heart broken by promises. Girls who want a lifetime with me always make it hard to live. Some men give me suggestions and never tried themselves. I'm thinking people who settle are setting me up to fail. Locked inside my mind, don't need your bell. You too busy falling with people who never leave a trail. You keeping secrets with people who never keep it real. I fell in love with a woman who wouldn't even kneel. Moral of the story, protect your energy while the universe is assorting every want and every need. I'm focused on what's important, now it's easier to see. Detach yourself from attachments that won't help you sow a seed. Brown.
Social Distancing Radio Hour. New music from C. Brown. Brian Morgante. Hello, my friends.
Hello, hello.
Good
It's-
evening there, Brian.
It's good to have
Hi.
you with us.
It's good to be here. This should be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the folks out there who don't know who you are, what you do, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to, and we'll take a look at some work and stuff too. But introduce the folks, if you would.
All right. Well, my name is Brian Morgante. I live and am from Erie, Pennsylvania, where my good friend Adam here is also from. I am a graphic designer. I run a company called Flesh and Bone Design that I've been doing full time for about 11 years now. And before that, I was a musician in a former life.
In a former life. That makes me sad.
It's a different time. Just a different
I
time.
still play on the side with my good friend Jack, just to scratch the itch. But I don't really consider myself, a musician with a capital M these days.
Yeah.
So more just designer, living a nice quiet life with my partner Rachel, of 13 years. And yeah, I don't know. I'm sure we can get into all kinds of other specifics, but it's hard for me to just like give you a crazy long bio.
That's good. That's good. Well, I first got introduced to. I don't actually remember how I first got introduced to you, but you were very much still an active musician at the time that you and I first met.
Yeah.
You had a band called Dead Horse that was a really excellent band that nobody in Erie knew was in Erie. Like you guys got to do a European tour. You guys had like some fairly decent national, like you toured a lot around the country.
Yeah.
You did, like I said, some European dates. Pressed some vinyl, got some decent attention. Um, and really, you hardly ever played in Erie that I was aware of. I mean, I saw you once in like a in like a student center in Edinburgh. It was the only time I ever got to see you play.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said that wasn't fairly intentional.
Yeah.
By design.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, growing up in Erie, being involved in, the punk and hardcore scene, even well before the Dead Horse days, any band that I was ever a part of was, always somewhat outside looking in of what was, I guess you'd say in vogue, at least in town at the
Yeah.
moment. I was never in any band that was part of like, the super hardcore thing. Like when all the hardcore stuff was going on, I was in like a metalcore scene band that was called The Sensory, and we were just kind of like laughed at by a lot of those individuals. And then after that, there was like a post-hardcore indie type band called Awaken North Wind, which also like, at that time there was other bands in town like Radio Empire, Still Frame Sky, Run Forever. We kind of had like our own little insular community. And then by the time Dead Horse started, like, everyone, the music scene itself was going through an evolution. Things were kind of on a down hit at that point, and we were just very focused on doing as much like full-time touring as possible. So there just wasn't a lot of opportunity, logistically speaking, to do much locally. None of the members were local. Everyone was spread out.
Yeah.
There were only a handful of us here in Erie. So like doing local shows just didn't really make much sense. But there at the time too, there wasn't much of a local scene to do shows in, which was kind of wild.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Garrett's been in the scene for longer than I have. And it is very cyclical. Like it's
Yeah.
There
Goes
are
in waves.
like, and for every little sub pocket of the scene, like there are boom times, and then there's a bust time that follows it. And
Oh
yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it was, I think, when you and I met and when I first saw you guys was 2011, 2012, which was, to me, that was sort of coming out of what had been a downtime. And that was sort of fairly getting towards the end of that. You guys continued to do stuff after that, but it more became a project after that. It seems like, unless we have a full lineup of a band that we're going out and playing shows.
Yeah. We did our the last thing we did was our European tour in 2012.
Yeah.
And then after that, we never did anything ever again.
Yeah. I know that. Like, there's some
Go out with a
really
blast. Like we're gonna go on a European tour. And then that's it. We're gonna disappear. Like we're gonna like.
Yeah, pretty much. It all came to a head. And we came back from Europe, and it just wasn't in the cards to continue.
So how did you first get in? Oh, and your friend Stephen McCory Design has lots of interesting things to say on Twitch. He heard you.
Yeah?
He heard you quit music to focus on yoga. So how
He makes it sound like that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? But that guy is actually he believes that NFTs are a real thing. So he has no foundation in reality.
Well, I mean, the money that people spend on them is a real thing.
He's an actual millionaire. He's crazy.
Oh yeah.
I've got to have somebody help me get my daughter into like the whole NFT creation thing.
Well,
so she can just sell bullshit to everyone and like make tons of money and like support me when I'm old and frail and stuff, you know?
Well, that's the guy to ask right there.
So, Stephen McCory Design, drop into our DMs. Let me hook you up with Garrett.
Please.
He says he right-click saves your artwork all the time.
Of course it does. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, drop into our DMs. I'll hook you up with Garrett, who can hook you up with Lola, and we can make Lola rich through NFTs because if anybody deserves it,
exactly.
It's Lola.
Steve McCrory goes by Glass Crane, and he sells to all the billionaires across the world.
Nice.
He does like crazy 3D art that goes for unbelievable amounts of money that would make you want to cry.
Fabulous.
Well, that's a hustle I got to get in on for sure because
it's the greatest snake oil scheme alive. I love it. It's like better than Christian moms peddling essential oils.
I love this guy.
Yeah, if I can trade NFTs for Sensi and then sell that for crypto, then
just so you're aware, you are 100% frozen on my computer.
Oh, I am?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I look fine here, so
you're frozen on mine as well.
That's all that matters.
We can hear you though. Okay. But you're like this, so if we all just do the show like this the whole time.
Yeah.
So Brian, here, if I may ask while we wait for Adam to unfreeze, what are you drinking tonight?
What am I drinking?
What are you drinking tonight? Yeah.
I am drinking a glass of Berkey filtered water.
I have Altered States and lemonade. So I'm going with that. That's my usual go-to on Sunday nights.
Is that an alcoholic lemonade?
Altered State is the local distillery, and they make a delicious white mink vodka.
Oh, is that like a sponsored ad?
No, I just mention it every time because it's always what I'm drinking on Sunday.
Nice.
This just happens to be that's how things work out on Sunday nights.
I already had my fun drink for the day. I'm at the tail end of what I'm dubbing Bad Boy Weekend, where my partner.
I am so excited to see what passes for a Brian Morgante Bad Boy Weekend.
My partner Rachel is out of town currently. She is up in Michigan getting tattooed, and she just did a whole weekend trip. She had a tattoo artist do a big tattoo on her shoulder, and then she wanted the same tattoo artist to do a similar one on her hip. So she went back up there for the weekend to get it taken care of. So I rarely have the house to myself. So I was like, oh, it's going to be Bad Boy Weekend. So I had a Bang energy drink. Over the course of 2 days. I had half of it yesterday, and I had the other half today.
Was like that one vein in your forehead, like just like.
Well, yeah. So I tried to drink an entire one a couple weeks ago, just in one sitting. And I mean, Adam, I'm 5'5", like 120 pounds, and it's like 300 milligrams of caffeine. And I literally gave myself my very first panic attack. Drinking one in one sitting, which was a very concerning situation. But so for Bad Boy Weekend, I got another one, and I just drank half on Saturday and half on Sunday. So I've been living it up over here. I had some vegan chicken nuggets.
Nice.
And it's been chaos.
Living the Vita Loca.
Yeah.
Loco.
When the girls are away, right?
Yeah, there you go. Well played, sir. Well played. Hats off to you there. I will drink to that.
So now I'm coming down, and I'm just I just got my water on. So.
Well, hydration is important after you've been banging.
It's
been that'll really push you out there. Yeah.
That stuff is like nitro fuel.
Have you ever had a Bang energy drink?
I have.
They're pretty wild, man.
I mean, as energy drinks go, they're a little zestier than the average. I mean, I won't say I drink a lot of energy drinks. I drink a healthy number of energy drinks. It's a not. I honestly had a Red Bull about an hour ago, so it's just because like it's been a long day. I'm kind of jet lagged. Like this day when the clocks change. either direction doesn't matter. Always,
Yeah.
just always. And the older I get, the worse it gets. It just
Dude,
it
that
just
bang-
messes
Oh,
with
for
me.
sure.
That
Yeah.
bang shit is like freaking.
Yeah,
is-
and like
it is high octane nitro
Oh, yeah.
fuel.
there's
like,
there's some sort of correlation to me between like how much it tastes like a penny and how bad it is. Like if it tastes like an actual human beverage.
Have you ever seen the guy that like owns Bang, like the Bang?
Oh, he looks exactly
Yeah.
like you would think that he looks.
He
That,
looks
that
like
is
the
the
energy
only
drink.
reason
That's-
why I
yeah.
started drinking Bang to begin with.
Just because
you
you
guys watched,
just because you're
the,
you're trying to live that lifestyle.
yeah, no, have you guys watched the HBO show How To with John Wilson?
Not that
no,
not
I'm
that
not.
episode. I have.
Okay, yeah. So there's an episode on the show where, long story short, he just literally shows up at the door of the CEO of Bang Energy, and he just enters the house in the middle of his wife having a baby shower, and he's just filming the whole time. And the CEO just like finds him, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, here, I'll just give you a tour of my house," and just like takes John Wilson all around his house and starts talking
And he's
about
all like, "Let me
Yeah.
tell you something. I'm
yeah,
so
and
fired
he's
up
just
right
talking
now."
about like how healthy Bang is and the benefits of Bang. And this guy is just like the ultimate character. And
Yeah.
Rachel and I just got like a big kick out of it. And we're like, we got to try one of these Bang energy drinks. And then lo and behold, we were like, these are kind of wild.
Here we go. Here's the dude.
Yeah,
And this is
there
from
he is, yeah.
this is from the Reddit thread that says the CEO of Bang Energy Drinks looks exactly how you'd expect. And yeah,
That is a tame photo. That is a
Yeah.
tame. That is probably the tamest picture I've ever seen of that guy.
He's absolutely wild, but goodness, and I'm someone who does not drink energy. The last energy drink I had before the couple Bang energies I've had in the last couple weeks because of this, I mean, I haven't had one in probably over 10 years.
Yeah.
So, and I don't drink
Likewise.
coffee. I stopped drinking pop. And I'm just coming back into it with like, boom, 300 milligrams of caffeine. Like, it's insane.
now you grew up as kind of like a straight edge kid, right?
I've always been straight. I still have never had alcohol or a drug or anything.
Well, hey, that's cool too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't
That's
know.
cool too.
It's not cool or uncool. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
As
yeah.
someone who started doing all of those things at age like 13 or 12 or something like that back in the,
yeah.
back in the 80s
Back
when
in
we
the
were
80s.
all latchkey kids and raised ourselves and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I really kind of
Yeah. Like,
kind of admire that whole.
well, on my end, like, I grew up,
ethos.
I grew up in a super strict Pentecostal, evangelical, conservative home. So, like, there was none of that at all, period, in my family, in my extended family. And then, coming out of that type of lifestyle and then entering, Erie hardcore, which it was like, if you weren't straight edge, you were a minority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My entire existence in my formative years was always straight edge.
Yeah.
No matter what angle it was, whether it was religious or not. So it was just something that was never really there, and I learned to live the party life without it. And I mean, no judgments.
Yeah,
I love to party, but 35.
That whole scene in the Erie hardcore scene was very, very prevalent back in I want to say it was like 90s, late 90s, right?
Yeah.
Mid to late 90s, right? That was the Forward Hall was big in the was the big venue in town where the hardcore scene thrived and flourished. I mean, a few other halls, but that was the main one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was right after. That was well after. Hell, I was almost 30 years old by then. So I mean, that was like I said, I grew up seeing shows at like the Armory on like 6th and Parade. You know what I mean? Like punks would like hand you a brown paper bag that they just filled with gum out and be like, "Suck on this, kid," and you'd be like, "What?"
Man,
Well, my head hurts.
Stephen McCory Design tells us tells you not to let us try and taint your temple of a body. Bless your heart, Stephen. Thanks.
Exactly. Yes.
Thanks for looking out for Brian because
I grew up with
clearly
bad
needs it.
decisions. So I kind of respect and admire those that did not have to go through that.
What was before Forward Hall near Liberty Street? Oh, the Continental Ballroom, which
Continental
was
Ballroom.
just
That
barely.
was before my time.
Yeah, that was just barely before my. Well, it wasn't technically before my time. I was just not cool enough at the time.
Yeah, okay.
Like it definitely existed when I was like in high school and of the age to go to all ages shows, but I was too much of a prog snob to be going to hardcore shows when I was
Prog
14.
snob.
Yeah, like I was too busy listening to Yes and King Crimson and stuff.
Oh, wow.
To be hip to hardcore shows. It took me until I was like, pushing 30 to honestly get a lot of that stuff, and it took me until I was disturbingly old to really get hip hop. Like, my tastes were fairly narrow when I was that age, so I missed a lot of the stuff that's like, oh man, that was when Lake Effect hardcore was in its prime and all of that stuff. So I missed all of those shows in 94, 95, 96 that I would have theoretically been old enough to be at, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely was not old enough. 94, 95, 96. I was at church camp getting, having people, breathe the Holy Spirit into me or something, something like that. So I mean, I didn't, I'm 35, so I started going to shows when I was 13 in the year 2000. So I came around as Continental Ballroom was exiting, and then like the Hangout was there, and just getting involved with that and Forward Hall. Those two were the main places in town.
Well, and my brother's closer to your age, and he's a little bit older than you, I guess. And my brother, who and you've done work for some of his bands and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he came up playing high school shows at the Hangout. The Hangout, Mr. Skindell, by the way, was in Edinburgh. It was the old movie theater.
I know. Yeah, I know. I'm very aware of the Hangout.
Okay.
That's where I ended up. Here's my Hangout story.
Tell us your Hangout story.
I went to the Hangout to see like Black Rose Diary play. Because I was like, one of my best friend's younger brothers. This is like his younger brother's band, Black Rose Diary. I'm gonna go check these guys out. And that's when, Hello Kitty Death Squad and Pegasus Unicorn and all those, that era of. But I went into the Hangout and I felt like the creepy old man that had been like drinking earlier. Like I'm the creepy old like 23-year-old kid around all the like 17-year-old straight edge kids, and I'm all like, hey, I went out for, was out in the parking lot, shotgunning some beers. And I walked in the Hangout to like see the Black Rose Diary. It was all like, oh boy, really feel like the old, kind of old.
I think the first time I saw Black Rose Diary was at the Hangout too, because they were on some bills with my brother's band at the time, which I was. He was 16 or 17. I'm 6 years older than him, so I actually was 23. You were, you were 33,
like 33 or something like that. Yeah, exactly. I totally. You're right. My decades were off.
Right.
What happens when you get to be this age? You're
right.
Oh yeah, that was back in the 80s. Like, dude, no, that was not the 80s, man. That was like 1997. What are you talking about?
Oh my god.
Because everything happened, as far as I know, everything happened in the 80s.
Yeah.
The entire world happened from 86 to 89 was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
and you're not wrong. The entire world did happen in the 80s.
But I was like this really old. I felt like the really old dude with a bunch of teenagers running around, watching Blind. So I like just stood in the back and was like, getting like dirty looks from the kids, like, who's the old guy drinking in our straight edge show? What a jerk.
Yeah.
And I was like, sorry guys.
And Jeff was that, like, I don't know, that's my brother's weird friend.
Yeah. Don't listen to him. He's horrible at fantasy football. Don't even pay attention. But yeah, and then we ended up getting them on. We ended up getting Black Rose Diary on bills at bars and stuff like that to come play with us, and they started out opening for us, and then we ended up opening for them because they're they're badasses.
Yeah.
They're great.
What a great band. They were fantastic.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, that's my hangout story.
That's your hangout
I felt
story.
like a big cheese ball, like the lecherous old crusty punk in the corner.
It's been interesting to see the lecherous old crusty punks come of age.
Yeah, I mean, I
know,
wasn't a lecherous old crusty punk, but I just felt like one because I was
right.
like the oldest dude
No,
there.
I understand, but
and had been drinking all afternoon.
I've been, I was a little bit of a late bloomer when it came to like playing shows. I didn't really properly start playing shows until I was 27, 28.
Oh wow.
I had bands that like never really got out of the garage, and I was doing my solo stuff, but it was very much like something I had no intention or ability of going out to do live, just because like I didn't have the equipment to do it. It was an in my bedroom project. So I wasn't really in bands that had gigs until like 2007, 2008, at which point I was like 20, 27, 28. So it's I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but I was an older guy to start with.
The scenes ebb and flow.
Scenes
through
ebb and
time.
flow, and it's I guess where I'm going with that is like we had Mackenzie on a couple of weeks ago, the last show that we did, Mackenzie Sprague, and Brian, I don't know if you know Mackenzie, but I first met her when she was probably 14, and first starting to play shows as a singer-songwriter as a young kid, and this was at old Basement Transmissions.
Yeah.
When that first started opening in 2011, 2012. Which was something that I was going to talk about when we were talking about you guys kind of Dead Horse not having a home in Erie. Like in a lot of ways, like these things do ebb and flow, and if you had been starting Dead Horse 2 years or 3 years after you were starting Dead Horse, it could have been, not that there's ever been, a big post-rock scene in Erie as such, or not that there's ever a post-rock scene anywhere for the most part. But
yeah.
But there were maybe more hospitable venues at a different time. But having now been doing what I'm doing for 10 years, and having now known you for 10 years, and known these other people who were the young kids on the scene 10 years ago that are now, in the people who were like the 23, 25-year-old punk kids are now, 35-year-old kids with who are starting to go
of their own.
Who are starting to go a little gray around the edges, and now that the 14-year-old kids are the 24-year-old kids who are in like adult relationships with people, and have dogs and houses and stuff like that. It's time is weird. Time is weird is I guess what I have to say about that.
I guess at the heart of it, punk culture is always a youth movement.
Yeah.
I always believe that. I mean, you can stay in it forever. It's a pretty insular community as you continue to age and evolve and find a role within that. But the action, the electricity happens, as part of that youth movement. So you continue to see that ebb and flow. Like if you lived in a college town, every 4 years it evolves into something new, because there's a whole new chain of command as people come in and people go out and people change their lives around. And so punk is ever evolving in that sense. And you can you can kind of jump in at any point or jump out, and always find a way back in. But your roles dramatically change. I mean, that's kind of my life,
Yeah.
for a long time. I was very much on the music side of it, and then I exited it and went into the design side of it. But it's like if anything, I'm more involved with punk rock than ever because of how connected I stay to the community at large through the creation
Right.
aspect of it rather than the music side of it.
So how did that all get started for you?
Design?
Yeah.
Uh, Complete accident.
Of
I had no interest in art. I have no knowledge of art. I didn't go to school. It was just something born out of necessity during the dead horse phase where, I guess long story short, we didn't have the money to cover the cost of all of the assets that we needed as
Yeah.
time continued to go on. It was just
Mhm.
one of those things that like we had all kinds of other expenses with keeping up with a van and insurance and restocking merch for tour and just trying to keep the whole thing afloat and funding itself. That was a big part
Well,
of
and
debt.
it's the punk rock ethos too. It's like there's a
Yeah,
thing that needs done, you figure it out and you do it.
yeah, and like a really big thing with Dead Horse was like no one should have to like put their own money in. Like everything should be covered by the band. So
Yeah.
because of that, it was like always trying to find a way to make something happen within the ecosystem of Dead Horse. So it was something where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like download some of these free design programs and see if I can figure out how to put shirt designs together.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, I like really enjoyed it. And then we'd go on tour and it just naturally evolved to where, hey, who does your merch? Oh, I do the merch. Can you do merch for my band? Absolutely. And then one
Yeah.
band turns into two, turns into four, turns into eight. And then it was just, we did a couple more tours after that before the exit. And then by that point, I already had a nice little foundation of clients. So then I just told myself, if I can go, uh, I if I go 2 weeks without getting a new job request from anyone, then I'll figure out what to do with my life. And it's been 11 years, and I've never had that happen, so I've never had to figure out what to do with my life.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty good threshold.
Well,
This criteria. If
and
I
at
meet
the
this criteria,
time,
I'm out.
at the time that
Yep.
you and I first met, Rachel at the time was making buttons for bands.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and so between you designing things and her making things, like
Yeah.
you kind of had this cottage industry between the two of you of like you would design the thing and she would make the thing and
Yeah.
and I've re-met people years later that you were like that ended up being like, oh yeah, Out of Step Buttons used to make my buttons, and I'm on that same compilation that you're on. Like you and Rachel put out a compilation on
Yeah. Yeah.
in like 2012
Yeah.
that I made a new track for, and there's like a 3 or 4 dozen other bands on there. And yeah, I've re-met people. They're like, "Oh yeah, they did my buttons. I'm on I'm on that button compilation with you."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was a big that was a game changer. That was something where it was a gift from Rachel to me for I don't remember, it was like a birthday or Christmas, but it was like, here's a button machine, you
Yeah,
can do what you want. So like for a long time I was making buttons, and then it switched over to Rachel making buttons as I switched over to design. And but then she also like did a ton with making jewelry and a bunch of handmade
yeah,
stuff that she would sell at shows. And yeah, we've always, I mean, we're big. Yeah, I mean, coming from punk rock, we're like bottom feeders through and through. So it's always been finding a way to like figure out how to make it happen and just scheming with what you got. And yeah, the button phase was fun.
yeah.
I forgot about that.
So you started off with friends you made on tour, people who were like, "Your merch is great. I want merch like that."
Yeah.
And people like me who found you, however I found you. But then at some point, it's and I'm finding I'm switching back. but now you're doing stuff um, like designs for the Stones,
Yeah.
and designs for My Chemical Romance and 30 Seconds to Mars and Crass, and this is the one that I'm on right now. Like, this to me, we I was showing my family a bunch of your stuff the other night because we were talking about you and all
That
the
one with the
people,
little angel blowing the horn is
the,
like my favorite
the
one.
people you've done stuff for. And there's some stuff, I'm off on a tangent now, but there's some stuff that you're making that I've known your work for 10 years. Some of it is definitely not your aesthetic, but this is one that I see a lot of you in. But, Korn, POD, System of a Down. Where did how did that pivot happen from that you're doing designs for your sort of equally DIY friends, and you're doing, things are getting sold in, things are getting sold in Macy's or whoever it was for Wu-Tang Clan, and things are getting sold in Hot Topic for Korn.
Yeah.
How did you start making those kind of connections?
Okay. So yeah, like the pivot for all of that happened. At this point, I guess you would say it was 4 or 5 years ago. Probably like 4.5 years ago or so.
Mm.
Where I can attribute it all back to my good friend Kevin. His name's Kevin Moore. He runs a design company called Soft Surrogate, and he's just a designer in Vancouver that I admired his work via the internet, and we always had like a mutual admiration for what each other was doing as we were both growing in our own walks, finding our own voices. At that point I had already been in it for like 5 years. My early years I had the same trials and tribulations as anyone else, trying to find, actually trying to figure out how to design, and
Yeah.
not having any training. I was not doing a very good job, like anyone, when you look back at those really early days, and then just trial by fire,
Sure.
getting better, honing my craft. Kevin was doing the same thing. He was light years beyond me though at that point, and had already been in it much longer. And there was one point where I've always been someone who's like, I'm pretty extroverted, so I'm pretty community driven, and like I thrive off of interaction with other people. And I was finding, as someone who had worked from home already for over 5 years at that point, I was getting increasingly more isolated.
Yeah.
And in design, especially through the late 2000s, the early 2010s, there wasn't a lot of community. A lot of people were pretty guarded.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know where to turn. Outside of a few social media interactions, my whole sphere of influence was still like just musicians and then friends that were outside of design. But I didn't really have any relationships with my peers as far as design goes, whether that was locally or not. So there was one day where I just reached out to my friend Kevin, and I just messaged him on Facebook, and I was like, hey, I would love to know if there's any outlets where like people like us talk to one another about the things that maybe we only understand. And specifically speaking of like merch designers in the music world, like I know I'm not the only one, but is anyone connected? Is anyone unified? Is anyone talking? And if not, like, do you want to start something like that? We can get other designers on board and just like, create more of a camaraderie.
Yeah.
And he was like, actually, I'm a part of this group. I've been a part of this group for a couple of years. It's just merch designers within the merch world. I can talk to them and see if we can add you into the fold, because I think you'd be a good little addition. So I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but all these people that had been friends for a while, he sort of went to them and was like, hey, my friend wants to be friends with all of you. Can we let him in?
Yeah.
And so one thing led to another, I guess, and they let me in. And I mean, and not in some sort of like gatekeeping secret sort of way, but just in like
You
a
get jumped in. Did you have to
yeah,
like? Did they get to
these
like all like punch in the arm once and
are,
walk by,
Yeah.
like
punch
these
you
are
in the
just
arm and
people
start thinking now
that
you're in
knew
the
each
club?
other, and they had been friends for a long time, and all of a sudden was, just like this weird guy, like, hey, can I be friends with you too? Like how do you do that as an adult? So
Right.
it, but it happened, and I can like 100% say like it changed my life. Like all of a sudden, I had this group of people that I was talking to on a daily basis that understood the lifestyle that I live because they all lived it. All of us live in different parts of the country. Some people live in different, parts of the world even. But we all have a shared perspective. And not only that, but like we were helping one another. And these people, you know, have helped elevate my abilities. They challenge me to be better, to do better, to look at things differently. And I mean, still to this day, we talk on a daily basis, and we all just continue to help one another and share resources and do what we can to lift each other up. But like because of having the insight and having the community of that group of merch designing peers, it opened up doors for opportunities where like one of the people in that group is this guy Daniel McBride, who's the art director for Sumerian Records, and he gave me some of my first opportunities working higher up in like the metalcore scene, I guess, working for bands like Between the Buried and Me and Born of Osiris and stuff like that. That was like, at the time just unheard of for me because I didn't have access to people that, and I wasn't just going to get handed some sort of like opportunity to do that. But through forging this relationship, it became something where it's like, hey, I'll trust you to give it a try. And nothing was guaranteed, but we finally were able to get some things across the finish line. And then, as things like that started to roll, other opportunities started to present themselves, and through one of the other designers, Corey Myers, Cameron Latham, like Juan Pilar, like people that had been involved for a long time in working with like the higher ups at like Live Nation, Merch Traffic, Universal, Bravado, Warner Music. Tom Gordon, of course, is like the king of kings of that world. But just working with these people, being involved with these people finally gave me an opportunity with some of those creative director teams to see if I was kind of up for the challenge. And I think it was one of those things that it took having 5 to 7 years of real world experience and showing what I was capable of with small artists and startups and medium-sized artists, and slowly working up a ladder, gradually, organically over time, and then finally getting that opportunity to see if I could, put those skills to test in the quote unquote big times. But at the end of the day, it's not like, you're working directly with any of these artists. None of them know who you are or know anything about you, but just, getting the opportunity to work with their management teams and their creative teams to creative problem solve together. And even that, that's been a journey that I've been on now for the better part of, 3.5, 4 years. And
Well, and it's interesting because in some cases, like you're taking these old design assets, old logos, old like. And I remember you talking about the corn one that you did. It's basically almost a recreation of a vintage shirt from the '90s, where you're taking this old logo, this old piece of art from other merch, and sort of making a modern retro version of something that's a nostalgic piece for somebody. And you've done that with some of obviously somebody like Wu-Tang Clan. Like you're not going to make a Wu-Tang Clan shirt without the W on it. But
that is one of the interesting things about the all working with all these established artists. Like you aren't doing as much creating, you're doing way more creative problem solving because they already have such established brands and such established identities that the real challenge comes with how can you take these things that everyone knows and everyone identifies these artists with and give them yet another new spin when people have seen hundreds, if not thousands, of renditions over the years. How many Korn shirts have you seen in the last 25 years? Like,
Right.
there's thousands upon thousands of them. Like, and in the last year and a half, I've created another 20 of them. And it's like, it's just wild to think, and that it's like a whole different way of thinking that is really challenging and exciting. That like, wow, I have to work within a really closed set of parameters to bring something
well, and
new.
you got situations like that where it's like I have to create stuff that lives in the world of these other things, and then you've got other opportunities where it's like, give us a whole new look, give us a fresh new logo, give us, design the entire world that this album cycle and release is going to live in. That's got to be two totally different kinds of challenges and kinds of opportunities for you.
Oh, absolutely. It's all, every single situation that's presented is tackled almost 100% differently. Like, there's no solution to how anyone reaches out to me that can be replicated necessarily. I mean, every once in a while, you get things where it's like, this client wants a shirt and then this client wants a shirt, and maybe you have like a little bit of repetition there, but for the most part, it's something different every single day. And then even within that, it's so different. Like, when you talk about branding and identity jobs, there are so many levels, and it's such a broad spectrum where someone might be coming to you looking for one simple little symbol, and then someone else comes to you and they need an entire ecosystem created out of thin air that takes months and months and months. It's the same with album cycles, where someone might just need one digital cover and that's it. Other people need plans for visuals for the next 2 years. And you had, it's such a different process every time. But the one thing that carries over through all of it is like an unbelievable focus on creative problem solving. And that's like, as time has gone on, I realized that's the only through line to my entire creative life that's ever actually been important. And it kind of speaks and informs my former life as a musician, where like, as a kid, of course, I had delusions of grandeur and like, I wanted to be a rock star. It was like from the moment I was 14 and got into all this stuff, it's like, I'm going to do what it takes to make music. Obviously it started in an unrealistic way. Like, I'm going to be a rock star. And then it turned into, how can I be a working musician for a very long time? But then, exiting music and being so involved with design, I was realizing I had the same exact fulfillment. And for a long time, I wondered why, because it's not like, well, you're creating, but in two very different ways.
Yeah.
It can't just be like a creation thing. And then when I met my friend Jack a couple years ago and started playing music again after not playing music for the better part of 6 or 7 years, that's when it like really hit me. And I had like kind of some realization, aha moments, like bird's eye view of yourself, getting some outside perspective, where like my friend Jack, he's been involved with music, since just like me, his entire life. But himself, he's a singer-songwriter, and regardless if he has 100,000 people listening to him or 2 people listening to him, at any given point, he has like 75 songs stirring inside of him, and he like can't help physically but to get them out of him. And it's something where it's almost viewed as like a physical hurdle. Like, I have to get these songs out of me so I can get to the next batch of songs, because there's a well that's just, it needs to be empty.
It's backing up.
Yeah. And then, so like working with someone like that, and him and I have become collaborators over the last 4 years, and I'm kind of like his number 2. Like, even in my best days where I was most focused on music, and I was so sure that music was everything to me, you couldn't pry 15 songs out of me over the course of 2 years, because I didn't have that in me. I didn't have that same passion. I didn't have that same perspective.
Well, and I'm sitting here like, what are songs?
But like the connect of it all comes on, if you like on the other flip of the hand, if you put 15 songs in front of me, that's where I come to life. I want to put them together. I want to figure out the dynamic track. I want to figure out the layering. I want to actually set the song on its course. And I realized that that's exactly what I do with design. It's just creative problem solving. That's all that I want to do in life. And I can do that in any field imaginable. And it didn't matter if it was music.
If you can figure out how the tools work.
Yeah. If I like, all I want to do is problem solve. And it's like, oh, that makes so much more sense. Like, I was never a musician. There, I get it.
Or this is a skill set that can be applied in many different areas. It can be applied in music, it can be applied in design, it can be decided in management, it can be decided in booking, it can be decided, you know.
Definitely.
So you got this secret society of merch designers. Sidebar before we get back to the secret society of merch designers, the people want to know what your preferred dipping sauce of choice is for the vegan chicken nuggets.
The preferred sauce. It depends on the day. It really depends on the day. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm kind of like, I am just a bottom of the barrel human being, and I try to maintain that aesthetic no matter what. So food is of zero consequence to me. I'm not even a person that is willing to cook vegan chicken nuggets properly. I microwave them like a rat. You know, where they get all soggy.
Like a rat, he says.
Yeah, I mean, food is of no importance to me. I get no enjoyment or fulfillment out of food. It's just like an obstacle in my day where I'm like, I have to get these jobs done. I need to put something in my body so it stops bothering me, so I can get
fuel in the tank.
Yeah, so I just put 6 vegan chicken nuggets from Wegmans brand only too. By the way, they're the best one. I buy the family economy bag. It's like $12.99. It's just disgusting, like bottom of the pit depression.
But vegan depression.
Yes, yeah, just like good for the planet depression. No, I just do 6 of them at a time, and really depending on the day, dictates the sauce that you would dip in. But most of the time, I literally just go for ketchup. I go for this old school kindergarten thing, where it scratches like a nostalgic itch of like, I wish the world.
I didn't like ketchup even when I was in kindergarten, so I get the theory.
Yeah,
but I'm not with you.
That's one side of it, and then a lot of times, on a more normal day where I'm not as nihilistic about the world around me, it's usually more of a General Tso's type thing.
Okay.
Where I'll do that, or I'll do it like a sweet and sour or Thai chili sauce. That's usually more.
Thai chili would be on my short list. Oh, and Garrett, we've been asked the same question as a follow-up.
Yes.
Vegan chicken nugget, or I mean, I assume we can apply this to non-vegan nuggets if we want.
Any nugget.
It's the nugget question. My preferred dipping sauce.
Yeah.
Usually
we've been
blue
asked as a
cheese
follow-up.
is my go-to. It's my go-to dipping sauce. Blue cheese sauce.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely I'm fairly heat focused when it comes to dipping sauces. So I'll do like
I'll do the double dip. I'll do the dip in the hot sauce and then the dip in the blue cheese type thing.
Yeah, that'll work. If I'm doing like the McDonald's nuggets, I either go sweet and sour, but I don't like Chinese restaurant sweet and sour. Like the bright red neon sweet and sour is kind of nasty. But the McDonald's sweet and sour that has this like apricot sort of apple cider vinegary thing to it, I like that. So sweet and sour or buffalo if I'm doing the McDonald's nuggets. But I like Brian's Thai chili idea. Thai chili is on the short
when
list
you
too.
Want to really go total nihilism, Giant Eagle has the mini wontons that I kind of do the same thing you're thinking, only it's with these mini wontons. I'll throw in like 8 to 10 of these in the microwave.
There you go.
And just be like,
fueled for the day.
Let's go.
Another favorite of mine is what I call hot honey, and it's just equal parts mixture of like a hot buffalo sauce and agave nectar, and
Okay.
it creates like almost like a sauce that you'd put on like a Nashville hot.
That's I'm interested in this. I would like to subscribe to your newsletter.
I'm liking
Yeah,
I'm liking that.
one of
Let me go put these back in the freezer before
oh
they
yeah,
go bad.
please do.
And then I gotta put more.
I'd hate to ruin your depression lunches for the next week.
I know, right? And then I gotta
Yeah,
gotta slather them in more
yeah, more blue
sweet and sour or
cheese.
something.
My lunches are so sad. I should start an Instagram where I just post pictures of my sad lunches
Yeah,
because they'll just like make you cry. It's disgusting.
yeah. You should definitely do that, and I will share that. But yeah,
It
one of my
feel
Oh
like
man,
favorite.
these dumplings have frost freezer burn. Well, that's where that's the part you dunk extra, in the soy hot sauce agave honey
Yeah.
there
thing.
you go.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and Steve
You'll
McCory.
thank me later.
Steve McCory Design says, "In this episode, the boys derail the podcast with sauce talk. Our work here is done, boys." Yes, thank you very much. We've gone 70 episodes of this show without once talking about dipping sauces, and
And
to
everyone started
to
clapping.
the best of my recollection, and then we did.
Children began crying.
Yeah,
See, I feel like the dipping sauce question.
I take that back. We have talked about dipping sauces because we had Ashley Sarah DeRivas on the show, and she and I did the Packy one chip challenge as a
Okay.
stupid human trick.
Yeah.
She dropped
Oh, yeah.
she dropped one on my doorstep, and she and I did it together on the show. But because she's her, she had already done it 3 or 4 times, and she makes her own hot sauce. Ashley is the chef at Lavery.
Yeah.
She makes her own hot sauce, which she sells and markets to people and stuff, and it's great. I got some in the fridge. She was like, she was already so blasé about the Packy one chip challenge, which like made me sweat and cry, and she put a bunch of her own hot sauce on it, and then put a raw slice of ghost pepper on top of her hot sauce on top of the chip.
Whoa.
So she had to up the stakes for herself because she's like,
That's wild.
been there, done it.
I don't get
so
it.
there was
Yeah,
there was definitely some sauce discussion on that one. So this is technically not our first sauce discussion, but this is a whole new level of sauce discussion for the show.
See, I think dipping sauce discussion can be a great introductory litmus test of personality types.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I appreciate this tangent. I think we should keep this. This will be like, when we develop our James Lipton Inside the Actors Studio 10 questions we ask people. Yeah, I think what do they dip their chicken nuggets in? I think is that's a contender.
It's a good one. It can open up a lot of doors.
Take a letter, Maria. Yes. Thank you for that, Stephen McCory Design. And I could ask Brian. No, I'm not going to ask Brian his favorite color. His favorite color is like some sort of brown. He's an earth tone.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
I can answer that. I can answer that for him.
I wrote there was this thing I found at my parents' house where in first grade we were tasked with writing these little hard covered books that we like gave to our parents called All About Me, and every page was like just a simple rudimentary thing about you at the time. And even back then in first grade, I opened it up and it said my favorite color is brown because it's the color of most animals. And
okay.
I did some terrible illustrations of the few brown animals I could think of. And it just, it's funny to see, but yeah, I've always been a brown boy. I love my browns.
Douglas Bailey, friend of the program, says, new social distancing variety hour tagline, what are you dipping?
What are you dipping?
Yeah.
What are you drinking? What are you drinking? So what are you dipping your wings in nowadays?
Oh, we could do like there's that there's that show Hot Ones on. I think it's a. Is it just a YouTube thing? I think it's a YouTube thing. But they have celebrities on to eat progressively hotter wings.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
And like ask them questions while they're eating progressively hotter and hotter wings. Yeah, we could do
Yeah.
a side
It's-
tangent. Do a tribute.
And it's cool because you can see who is like degrading, and like at the beginning of the interview, they're like, "Hey, this is no big deal."
And the absolute worst is which will surprise no one is apparently DJ Khaled, who couldn't even take like the Franks. Like he talked a big game that like, oh, I'm DJ Khaled, I'm gonna be able to eat all this hot sauce, and then he just like tapped out on the first one. Was like, pepper, nope.
Yeah.
Huh.
What I love about that is like they start to like lose. They start to like, the question is X, and they're like, whew,
You get
oh.
you get that like pepper hallucination state, and yeah, it's I see where they're going with it. It's
they lose track of the
it's a good
question. They can't.
concept.
You see them like generally degrade by the end of the interview. They're like,
Yeah,
they're sweating.
They're
and
being-
their eyes are watering.
they're
and
being
it's
waterboarded by chicken wings.
It's good
Wow.
stuff.
That's really intense.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
yeah. That's gonna be our new spinoff. Except
There we go.
we'll do it with cauliflower. We'll do vegan hot ones.
Perfect.
Buffalo cauliflower.
There
Buffalo
you go.
cauliflower hot ones.
Yeah, we'll get all the vegan celebrities on.
I
yeah,
kind of
all
like
of-
where this is going.
We'll start with Brian.
I kind of like where this is going. We'll be like,
Yeah.
all right, and now we're going to the 1 million Colville or Schofield.
Scoville,
Level
you got
hotness.
it half right twice.
There we go. Sounds great.
Sweet.
Oh,
So, Brian, what is next? What is the future of? I'm sorry, I totally spaced it earlier when Adam mentioned it. What's the name of your design company?
Flesh and Bone Design.
That's right, Flesh and Bones. So, what is the future of Brian and Flesh and Bone Designs?
I mean, there is no future. I'm not one for plans. I'm not one for thinking ahead at all. Like I said, I'm just gonna keep going until I go 2 weeks without getting a job, and then I'll figure out what's next after that. But no, I just do what I do as the jobs come in, and I just remain fluid with it. I'm kind of big into the woo woo nonsense, so I'm a big Ram Dass be here now kind of guy.
Mhm.
There's no yesterday, there's no tomorrow, so I don't make plans for one, and I don't dwell on the other. So it's just I just roll with it. I enjoy design. I'm at 35. I still very much enjoy it. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I can do until I am not
Live
asked.
in the now and do the best you do with what you do now.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
gotcha. I'm gonna make my daughter. I'm gonna make Lola watch this. Adam.
yeah, do
I'm
that.
gonna make Lola rewatch this and be like, "This fucking guy right here. This is
We can
is
get
the
all
fucking
kinds of
plan,
woo
honey."
if you want. I'll get down with that. But yeah, no, I don't know. There's no plan. There's no 1 year, 5 year. There's no tomorrow plan.
Except
just-
the Nuggets.
Except the nugget. Yeah, I will
Tomorrow-
definitely be having nuggets
Tomorrow there will be Nuggets. Roughly 6.
Roughly
5 to
six.
7. 5 to 7 Nuggets.
No, I mean,
The other half of the Bang energy drink.
it's gone now. There's no
Okay.
more bang.
Oh, crazy time is over. Tomorrow.
yeah, Rachel
tomorrow.
back to
It's,
so the bang had to be gone.
tomorrow it's back to mineral water and vegan chicken nuggets.
There we go. Yeah, no, I mean, I usually have about 15 open design projects at any given point. So I just ebb and flow between, doing them, closing them out, and opening new ones as the others are exiting. So I'm in the thick of it right now with a bunch of stuff. It's an exciting. We're about to be upon touring season.
I was
so-
just gonna say, it seems that now that we're coming out of Omicron, at least. I mean, who knows what's on the other side of it? But it
Yeah.
seems
What comes
it
next,
seems
though? What
like
comes next? I'm not to interrupt and sidetrack, but what's the next?
oh, they're totally off the plot as far as like they've already skipped multiple letters and like, oh, this one's
I'm saying
catchy.
what
We're
the
gonna
Greek
make this
alphabet is
one
next. Is it like
Oh no, that's what I
Sigma,
mean. Like they've totally discarded the Greek alphabet. Like they skipped I don't know.
Chi or
Yeah, they
Phi or
skipped
Psi or
gamma.
something?
Yeah, I don't know. They skipped something that's like, oh, that sounds like a good thing, so we can't call one something that sounds like a good thing.
Yeah.
Omicron, that sounds scary. Let's go with that one.
I love that
So
band.
they're just fucking picking random ones now. But anyway,
Wow.
now that we're on the other side of Omicron and major tours seem to be picking up, this has got to be and I mean the last couple years had to have been kind of weird for you. Like something that I thought was really cool that you did over the last couple years. Um, having been on the independent band side of things, like I think you kind of recognized more than maybe some people in your industry, like what circumstances were like for bands who would be touring bands, because like
Yeah.
you've had that shoe on. Like you kind of opened yourself up to be like, if you're a band who's impacted by this, like you went very kind of pay what you can pricing for a lot of bands who were affected by things in the last couple of years, and
Yeah.
kind of made yourself accessible to people who otherwise might not have been able to get in the door with you. Now that I don't want to say that you're getting away from that, but now you've got the bands who would normally be your kind of higher profile clients are kind of coming out of storage and reactivating.
Yeah.
Are you
Well, they're ready to.
seeing that? Are you seeing that come back from some of the things that had kind of gone quiet the last couple of years for you, or is that still a little ways off?
Well, I mean, I can honestly say that COVID did not affect the design world at all in a negative way. If anything, it was the opposite. It's been crazier than ever over the last couple of years. And it was because there was so little touring, people on all levels of that spectrum in the music world had to lean on merch more than ever. So it's like most of us couldn't design fast enough to keep up with the output that was needed, whether it was large scale clients or small clients.
Because it's
just
like
as a
we can't do a new tour, but we can do a new T-shirt, and
yeah, we can do a whole new merch. Yeah, like on as one example, on a very large scale, like a company like Live Nation that ended up, being bought out by Merch Traffic and then being bought out by like a Saudi Arabian government agency. That during COVID they lost, I think it was like 97% of their income revenue, and the only 3% that was hitting was the merch sector of the entire company. So they had to lean all of their resource into doing everything they possibly could to build that
so it's
up.
like
To
let's crank out these designs, let's knock out all these things.
Yeah. So I mean, it was like, I mean, I was, it was a 60-hour week every single week for 10 months straight.
See, I'm kind of surprised. I would think that like, all right, with 2022, there's all these, North American, European tours that have been canceled because of the lockdown situation and stuff like that, and now they're going to be gearing up for their, they've been on the shelf for 2 years, and now they're pulling out all the stops, and they're going to go hog wild on their North American tour with like going merch crazy. But it's interesting to find out that that's not necessarily the case at all.
Yeah, I mean, the internet changes everything because people they just pivoted strategy where instead of releasing tour specific merch, they just did online exclusives, and they just treated it more like a fashion brand where everything became cyclical, seasonal, and scarcity. Everything was just based on limited runs or different artist collaborations through COVID, just to keep interest generated while they couldn't generate interest on the road. And then, of course, as you started doing online shows and streaming events, there was exclusive merch for things like that. And I started doing lines for all kinds of bigger bands where, you would have to buy a ticket to a digital show to even have access to the merch, just like you were on tour.
Clutch did that with their Doom Saloon. They had like the 4, stream only, concerts that were like from their rehearsal, from their studio, and they basically put on a concert. You had to pay a fee to get access to the stream, and that was the only way you could get access to the Doom Saloon merch that they had.
Everyone sort of pivoted to that model, and I did a bunch of things like that. One of the biggest ones was for a Jamaican rap artist, Pop Can, like a reggaeton artist. They did an exclusive collaboration with Boiler Room TV, and through Boiler Room, like they did like this whole limited merch drop where it was just wild. But I was really fortunate enough to be able to do everything for that. And another band called Arizona was a similar thing, and then this new metal band called Seether, they were doing like a 20.
Oh, I remember them. They're terrible.
Oh, I mean, everyone's got a banger in there, right? Everyone's got something. But no, it was like a 20th anniversary, like worldwide streaming event, and got to do a couple of designs. That was, if you got a ticket to it, you got access to the merch. If not, you couldn't get it. And I think the strategy really worked for a lot of people. It's a different exclusivity strategy there. But I mean, because
I'm sorry.
No, but like while that strategy, bode very well for the large artists, it also bode very well for the small artists too, where a lot of people knew that creatives were hurting and musicians couldn't do the shows, couldn't go on the tours, and even on a DIY level, people were really getting behind, saying like, oh yeah, drop something, I want to support you. And I mean, it's just the power of the internet bringing us that much closer together, a double-edged sword, good and evil all the time.
Now it's kind of created a whole new model moving forward. Like here's a brand new model that born out of necessity that will now be moving forward, will be kind of like I won't say a framework necessarily, but it's basically like it's the framework of the new era, the post.
And like Adam, speaking more specifically to what you're saying there, like I think like it not hitting right now, so to say, but right when all of the tours started to get announced for last fall, I think that was the busiest push you saw all at once, because you had the entire infrastructure of the touring industry that it was 100% shut down for almost 2 years. And then basically everyone inched forward with their repos, with their reschedulings and everything. And then it was like, all right, September 2021, we're getting back out there.
Go.
Yeah. You saw every tour just for September, October, November, December, just boom, all through that Q4. And so all last summer was just full blown chaos. Every artist of every level needed everything at the same exact moment. The ultimate bobottleneck. It was
including me, because that was my first tour. Was September, October of 2021. We didn't do a whole lot of. I mean, we didn't do shirts or we didn't do anything like that. But we did do a tour exclusive release that we sold all of on the tour, and like it. You were talking about that, people recognizing that people haven't been able to get out and that people are hurting and stuff, and it was honestly, we did I think 9 shows, and it was some of the most robust merch sales I've ever had at shows. Just because
that's awesome.
Like you said, people are recognizing that artists are struggling and want to support them, and I think for a lot of people, a lot of people that we were playing for were saying that it had been the first sort of like experimental show that they'd been able to go to in their particular town since the before times, and we happened to be getting there at the right time. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of kind of pent up, like, oh my goodness, I haven't been to anything in so
No.
long. Um, and unfortunately that ended up being a fairly short window of like, this is a good idea for 6 weeks and now it's not a good idea again.
Yeah,
and
no,
and
exactly.
and
Because
now
even
and
in that time, Jack and I were supposed to do just a little acoustic tour together at the end of October around Halloween,
yeah,
and that was right when like all of a sudden Omicron was taking over
right,
the nation, and everyone started pushing everything back. So we just canceled. We didn't
right.
get an opportunity to do it, but
But now is the time that, like, the people who didn't get out then, they're all getting out now.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like you still have the tail ends of that bottleneck
Right.
affecting everything, and
Yeah.
like it's the last couple of years have been a downright whirlwind when it comes to creation on the merch side of things, and it's created like the most unhealthy work-life balance I have ever had in my existence.
Yeah.
I have put myself past the point of no return, and it's a lot of my fellow creatives can agree that we all went a little too hard and are still reaping the consequences from that rush back into it.
Reaping the
Sure.
whirlwind of the.
Just trying to turn
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Just trying to
here's
turn that
here's
into
my
another
question.
chicken nugget reference.
How when you talk about the bottleneck, right? And
Yeah.
like when all these things came back, there was a bottleneck. Now, being the problem solver, having like the problem solver mindset that we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
a lot of that shit's out of your control. You know what I mean? A lot of that. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
a lot of the bottleneck issues aren't within your purview of
Yeah.
problem solving. Like, well, here's how we'll solve this problem. Here's a creative thing we'll do, and here's
Yeah.
here's the workaround that will get beyond this obstacle.
Absolutely.
So, how's that factor in? How do you deal with those obstacles when you have things that like are beyond your control, but you still have shit you have to get done, for lack of a better way to say it.
Well, I mean, there's the fluidity, the adaptability, and the calculated risk of everything. The best laid plans, as we all know.
Right.
But it's just one of those things where there's so many moving parts, there's so many people and all these creative teams, and there's always going to be variables that you can't account for. But a lot of these people know what they're doing, and you trust their decision making, and if you can be a part in that process to get things where they need to be going in the timetables that they feel are appropriate, after that you just got to keep your fingers crossed that you can then execute on the other side, and not get caught up in another whirlwind of an uptick in a global pandemic. These are things that we've never dealt with, so we
I'm
don't
thinking, oh, we were going to get our,
Yeah.
the ink that we use, this special ink that we use to.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Oh
pulling shit
yeah,
out of my ass.
goodness.
But
If
oh
you
man, there's this special ink that we're going to use for this T-shirt that has some special fucking glitter in it or whatever.
Yeah.
And we can't get it because it comes from freaking Thailand or whatever. And there's the ship is in the canal and
Oh,
fucking everything up or
it's on
whatever.
the sideways one.
Yeah, exactly. It's on that
Right.
goddamn ship that's stuck in the canal or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, so maybe we have to find those guys, that obscure company in freaking, Eastern Tennessee that makes something similar that we can get on time, so it's
That's been a huge problem just with something as basic as shirt blanks.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there are so many colors that you can't get access to because they are stuck in shipment purgatory.
Yeah.
Well, and that's true, at
Anything, yeah.
at all
Yeah.
all stages in the industry. People trying to make vinyl.
Oh my! Don't even get me started on
Vinyl is
that.
taking like 18 months right now. But
Yeah.
like I'm working on a tape right now. I mean it's already out, but the tapes don't exist yet. But the company in Cleveland who I've used in the past, who's doing my dubbing for me, it's like, well, we can't get this color of blanks or this one or this one or this one. We've got like black, white, gray, a couple of random colors that I don't want, but like half of their like, you know, shell colors, like colors. They're like, don't have them, don't know when we're gonna get them, don't bother ordering them. And
It's truly incredible.
Yeah, I gotta give it up for that kind of flexibility on the fly, so to
so we
speak.
talked earlier about you and Rachel as sort of the cottage industry. So, um, and this I was reminded of this by what Garrett was saying. With that, do you have the opportunity or take the opportunity to kind of partner with people on the manufacturing side, where if you're working with somebody, you can sort of say, like, here's the design, here's somebody who can execute this for you? Or are you mostly working with people who have that machinery so much in place that you don't really have to or get the opportunity to get involved on that side?
I only get to be involved on that side of things maybe 30% of the time, maybe even less than that.
Yeah.
When it comes to the big leagues, 0% of the time. They have their
It goes into the
infrastructure.
pipeline, and that
Yeah.
infrastructure is all in
Yeah, and
place.
a lot of it has little even to do with how a lot of times when designs are handed off in that world, you're not necessarily tasked with creating something wildly specific, but something that is infinitely versatile.
Yeah.
So the design has to be able to work on light values, dark values, has to be able to work in any color they want to run it through, just in case it's going to be reprinted 40 times in 40 different variants.
Right.
What you want to execute mock wise is, it almost doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. Like, they're going to run with what they want to run with, and that what their strategy dictates for whatever the moment in time that specific piece is going to be used for, which it might not be for 6 months, might not be for 2 years. You have no control over that. There are other clients that you talk to, and a lot of times more like the things that I really, really enjoy, that we're getting involved and creative directing with smaller and mid-level bands directly, where you can offer those types of suggestions, but still fitting within a framework of infrastructure that makes sense to their budgets and their scope of execution, which is like a whole different thing, and a really fun challenge. I have trusted screen printers, especially from every corner of the country, that I know, if you're a band that I'm working with that's in New England, and you don't have that infrastructure in place, I'd highly recommend you work with these people, because they're going to do it right and get it done in a way that makes sense. Or if you're on the West Coast, work with these people, et cetera, et cetera. I try to meet people where they are and understand, the volatility of shipping.
And you gain so much efficiency by working with somebody as local as you can too.
Absolutely. So yeah, when the opportunity presents itself to help in that regard, I love to. But there are a lot of people, especially as time goes on, and I work with people that are more established. They usually have trusted sources there, and I don't want to, infringe on. I don't want to impose on what they already have built. If they have trusted relationships, go for it. I'm just going to hand off the files that will work in the hands of anyone that need them. So it's fun though when you can get involved on that side. But even I think the most tricky is like the actual music creation side. Like I do a lot of vinyl and CD and tape production, and as much as I want to get involved on that side, because you can see my record collection in the back. I'm a big, physical music collector, so I take great pride in that type of stuff, and every inch of me wants to like dictate every aspect of that. But I know from being on the band side of it that it 100% is not my place, because everyone at it from a different moment in time. Everyone has a different budget. Everyone has a different timeline. And if anything, it helps to know the parameters of the infrastructure systems they're working on before I even get started. So if it's like, we know we're going through this pressing company because this is the pressing company we can afford and has the timeline that makes sense to me, then I know I have to work within that company's own, parameters and limitations as far as printing is concerned, and execution of actual physical products. So Yeah, I don't know. In a perfect world, I could dictate all of that as well, but I know that's never ever going to happen.
Yeah. Well, you work with company A and they like theirs in a certain form. They like their art, their designs coming in a certain format so that they can work with it on whatever their
Yeah,
pipeline or their infrastructure is. And for another
yeah,
company, you may have to
Well,
put
and
it in.
there's a certain amount of I just know that because I've made enough T-shirts by now. There's a certain amount of you can tailor certain things to certain materials, to certain printing methods.
yeah,
Um, like whether you're doing discharge versus whether you're doing, traditional ink. You know, different designs that's like, oh, this will really work well if you do it, with this kind of method or on this kind of material, and that's the kind of thing where if you're designing it for Outcast, you're not going to tell them like, oh, you know,
yeah,
this will look really nice on this, but I'd stay away from the powder blue.
yeah.
Um, speaking of
Uh,
speaking of records, you still need that guy?
absolutely, I do.
Okay, it's all yours.
Yeah, I think on the
Because it was in my stack right here in the studio.
perfect.
Yeah. So I'm like, we were talking.
Uh,
You were talking about your record collection. We were talking about
yeah,
that Crass record. I think it's
heck
right
yeah.
over there.
One of the most important or one of the most interesting things on the infrastructure side of things is always executing vinyl variant colors
Oh,
because
uh-huh.
it varies so much between pressing plants where pressing plant A only has these color pellets available and then pressing plant B only has these ones and then maybe this plant can do these types of splatters or these types of color combinations but this one can't. So like knowing how wildly different that can be when it's important to a client can drastically outcome or drastically change how you would even approach designing the packaging to
Yeah.
begin with,
Well, and
knowing what.
there's so much voodoo in that too. It's like you only know with so much certainty, even with your material that's going in, what's going to come out because it
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily, company A's orange doesn't look like company B's orange,
yep,
and just depending what other color you're mixing it with and what temperature it's at, and
yeah,
yeah, I mean, there's just so many variables in all of it
it's
that
remarkable.
it's hard to design around in a lot of ways, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have one last question here,
All right.
and it's really important
Oh,
because I have a daughter who's an artist who's a sophomore in high school. She'll be going into her junior year. I have a daughter that's going to be going into her senior year. As a creative and as a person, she's an artist and she wants to do art the rest of her life. She wants to spend her time being that creative that's creating. What advice would you, as someone who's in not that business, but a strain of that business, what advice would you have for my daughter and others like her that are her age and mid high school on?
Don't go to school. Never, ever, ever go to school. That's my main advice. Don't go to college.
Mm-hmm.
Don't waste your time. You're just
Got
gonna
it.
put yourself 4 to 6 years behind everyone else.
Got it.
And put yourself that much more in debt. It's worthless. You can learn all that crap on YouTube and TikTok or whatever nonsense
What
is
kind
out
of programs? What kind of programs should be learned? Like, what's going to be like the future? Like,
there. I have
nobody's
no clue. I have
nobody's
no
working on Tascam anymore when they're recording. You
I
know,
have no clue. I use garbage program. I use Mickey Mouse programs.
well,
And
what do you use?
I use a free and open source program for my design called paint.net. It
Okay.
is like it is 100% free. It's 100% community created. Uh
Well, and
and
I am a big and very vocal supporter of free and open source tools. I mean,
me too. Me too.
yeah,
I
that's why I asked because I'm like, I want to know, like, what the hell should I be making her?
like
Hey, you got to
I'm
learn how to do this. Fibbledygibbet.com program
I make
because that's
this
the
I
new
make this
wave of
show
stuff.
I make this show with OBS, which is free and open source. The computer I'm broadcasting this show on runs Linux. So yeah,
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I am a huge open source nerd. I use GIMP for all of my
Yeah.
graphic design stuff that I do,
Absolutely.
which I don't do nearly to the extent that you do, but I do okay for an amateur.
Yeah.
But
Goodness, yeah, open source is everything. Like, I mean, that's the punk rock bottom feeder anarchist in me. Like,
yeah.
to say I hate Adobe is an understatement. Like, you just like in the music world with all the companies that run all of the high end recording programs and all of the plugins, they put a stranglehold on creatives and say this is the only path, this is the way. And then companies like Adobe do the same thing in the design world and say this is the path, this is the only way. And sure, yeah, it's industry standard and it has a lot more capability. And if you're an artist that needs that type of capability, learn how to use the industry standards. But if you are someone more like myself that's more non-traditional and a little bit more, quote, fringe in the design community, you can create an entire career on free and open source programs. And my 11-year mistake is proof in the working of that. I have never paid a dime for a design program. I've never paid a dime for a creative asset ever. I have done everything manually since the beginning of this journey. And yeah, programs like paint.net, like programs like GIMP, programs like Inkscape, they are so unbelievably powerful. They just have different workflows and they don't have the promotion or money machine behind them like Adobe. So you don't hear about them, but I can still create, Adobe files. I can create PSDs and I can create PDFs and Illustrator file. I can create them all the same to hand off to clients. So like 11 years, I've never had issues with printers or the largest clients in the world or the smallest clients in the world. It all just works. So there's always a workaround. Always a workaround. So yeah, I would tell your kid not to waste time or money with school, and always put community over competition. So many creatives, especially academic creatives, get very guarded, and there's a lot of gatekeeping of knowledge. There's a lot of gatekeeping of asset. There's a lot of gatekeeping of access. And the more you can create a community with like-minded creatives around you, your own peer group, the other people that are trying to execute things similar to what you're doing or have similar mindsets, there's power in numbers. There's power in sharing. There's power in that community to help elevate one another, whether it's instead of trying to rise above one another. So to do everything you can to be open and accessible to everyone when they have questions. So when you have questions and need that same sort of access, you have it too. Do unto others as you want done unto you. And just keeping things open and equitable for everyone is key. So between those two things, it can really open up a lot of doors and a lot of opportunity to grow and collaborate and explore in so many different directions. And I firmly believe that those two things alone stand so much on a journey that can last a lifetime.
Excellent. I'll have to make
I
sure.
love it.
I'm going to memorize everything you just said so that I can tell my wife that when she's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? And I'm going to college. What?" And I'll be like, "No, honey, no, hear me out. No,
Brian
really.
says
No, baby.
so. It's
No,
fine.
No, I'm telling you. No, here's what I'm saying." And then I'll like press play in my mind and I'll just like repeat totally exactly what you just said to me. Like, see?
Brian says so, and he's a vegan, so you know it's good advice.
And my children microwave nuggets and dip them in, shitty sauce that they make up too.
It all does come with an enormous asterisk by it though, because it all depends on how much of a self-starter you are. If you are not the type of individual who is not a self-starter and wants to gain all this knowledge on your own volition, it can be very hard to do that. And sometimes school is a wonderful framework to do that. But if you are the type of person that can live outside of that framework, there's just no need for it. There's absolutely no need for it. Not in the creative field, at least. There's way too many tutorials and walkthroughs and resources out there that are free and accessible to everyone that you can learn these things, whether you are just watching it or you're asking other creatives. Like it's just there. There's just no reason for it.
Fantastic. Thank you for the excellent advice.
I feel so I talk to creatives every day that are in different parts of their journeys, and almost all of them unanimously, their biggest regret is going to school. Their
Yeah.
biggest regret is going into that much debt for skills that they could have learned 100% on their own, or were null and void before they even left school. And
Yeah.
I just feel bad for them because
Yeah.
they, on top of the type of life that we're all trying to figure out, they're also having to figure that out with 30, 40, $100,000 in debt on top of their shoulders. And
Yeah.
I just wish that on anybody.
That's what I'm trying to sort out right now with my kids, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
they're really good. My daughter's a really good artist. I don't want her to like go,
yeah,
100K in debt just to learn
yeah.
how to do what she's already doing. But
Yeah, it's
so yeah.
disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
But at the same time, both of them are kind of like, I don't want to say shy, but they're rather shy. They're not like, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna grab life by the balls and fucking say and run. They're more like,
Oh my God.
Okay, I'm doing my cool art thing, and so I'm trying to guide them in the right directions and let them
Yeah.
do their thing. And
I think another side of that too, I mean, there's so much pressure put on kids
Yeah.
that age to say, hey, what are you going to do for the rest of your life?
exactly.
Right.
I'm trying to.
I didn't find this path until I was 25.
Yeah.
And if I would have been forced to make that decision when I was 17, I would have ended up on a completely different I would have gone to school as a youth pastor because I was still brainwashed in the church at that point in my life,
Yeah.
that would have been a whole different mess. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I'd be living some wildly different life that does not look anything like this. But
Snake oiling some shit.
Being a shirt and tie knocking on our doors.
Like, this is like Bang. So this is only it's all got vitamins and nutrients.
allowing young people the space and time to actually explore what's going to make sense for their journey, man.
Yes.
That's a privilege in and of itself.
Career Rumspringa. It's
that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Trying to like let them follow their own path without being like, so what did you decide? So well,
I mean,
you figured out your entire future yet? No, you haven't. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. I'm just trying to be like.
I'm sick of careerism in general, just in the sense of like there's so much in Western thought process that's formulated around what do you do and not who you are, and I'm so many other parts of the world. It's like I have this creator. Her name's Carol. She's a designer in Italy, and I remember having this conversation not too long ago. It was just like a fleeting conversation, but it left an impact where it said, with some of her groups of friends that have been, they've been friends for years, something they don't ask is what each other does. They don't go into a conversation and say, well, what do you do? Or how's work? Some of them, they don't even know what they do for a living because it simply holds no importance. They want to know who they are as an individual, and they're so separate from the thought of being consumed by some career, and all of us over here, it's like we're something in quotations, like I'm Brian the musician, or I'm Brian the graphic designer, and we all just get so wrapped up in that type of life over here, and the pressure is just put on kids all the time to reach for something. And it's like, why don't we instead try to find something bigger in life than just a vocation and a way to make money or keep a capital machine moving forward,
I'm just trying to be like, hey, you just create what you want, you create what lights your fire, you create what's interesting to you, and shit will follow that.
Well, I think a lot about people that I know who are musicians or people in bands, and 99% of them have some sort of day job.
Oh yeah, of course.
99% of the ones that you've met probably do too. And there's so many of them. I have no idea what it is. Doesn't matter. Like Garrett, I happen to know what you do.
Yeah.
And there are friends.
It wasn't until I started doing the show with him that I realized Adam did. I was like, oh, really? That's what you do?
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
man. Because he mentioned it on the show once. I'm like, oh, fucking cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know
but
that.
there's so many and people that I've played in bands with for years that I'm like, I don't know what you do when you go to work. I don't really care.
And that's awesome. That's how it should
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, and people who are I've known for 10 years and played dozens of shows with. At some point it comes up, and sometimes it's interesting, and sometimes it's like, sometimes it's just a thing to them. It's like, yep, this is what keeps me in vegan chicken nuggets, but
Or dumplings.
or dumplings. Whatever floats your boat.
Heck yeah, I love it.
Brian, it was really great meeting you.
Absolutely.
And finding out a lot about you, your story, the whole thing. I appreciate it. I learned a lot tonight.
Definitely, it's a lot of
Good.
fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
Glad to finally have you with us. I know we've been trying to make this happen for a long time. I know we first talked about it back because Brian made the. He'll never tell you this, and he's deeply embarrassed that I'm going to tell people this, but he made the readers 40 under 40 list last year for reasons he still doesn't understand. So when we tried to do our 40 under 40 special. I tried to get Brian to be a part of that, and schedules just didn't align at the time. But yeah, yeah, you've already forgotten about it, which is how much weight you put and how much weight people should put on who makes the readers 40 under 40.
Oh, it's so silly. All that stuff is so silly.
Yeah, I mean, I say that as an alumni of the list myself. I'm no longer under 40. But
I was too old.
I'm no
the very
longer
first 40 under 40 I'd aged myself out of.
Oh man.
I was 30 35, 36 at the time. I am no longer 35 or 36.
I still think someone's trolling me on that. Like it had to be an inside job.
Well, I nominate people most years because I like to think that I know people who are cool. And
under 40.
And under 40. And sometimes they get through, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes they get through a couple of years later. And I asked Adam Welsh in the reader one time when I ran into him out and about on the town. So I asked him, do you guys save nominations from one year to the next? Because the list had just come out. And I'm like, because there's literally 4 people on this year's list who I nominated last year and didn't make it last year. And he's like, officially no, but when we repeatedly hear names, they do stay in the back there. So well deserved, I say, for whatever it's worth, which is nothing. But well deserved. I did not nominate you, but I would have.
I'm just over here making waves and huge impact for the Erie community by my graphic design T-shirts.
But
I learned a lot tonight.
But look at it the other way. Like you're doing nationally recognized work. Like who else in Erie can say that they're doing work for Outkast? Who else in Erie is working for Wu-Tang? Actually, there's at least one other person who is doing work for Wu-Tang.
C. Brown.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Friend of the program. But how many people in town? Like, I wish I could say I was doing work for Outkast and doing work for Wu-Tang and doing work for Crass and doing work for.
I mean, it's bizarre though, because at the end of the day, it's just a name on a T-shirt,
right?
Yeah. I don't know. It all just feels very fleeting to me.
Well,
it works in complete dissonance to my worldview because it's just these tangible things that are of no consequence at all. And if anything, I'm just putting more pollution out into the world that it stands in stark contrast to like what I would desire
to
for
your minimalist lifestyle.
And yet here I am, just like, putting out shirts that will be printed thousands, if not tens of thousands of times, and it's like,
but
what?
you're taking money from the man and spending it on good commie shit.
There we go. Well, yeah, we'll call it Robin. I'm Erie's favorite Robin Hood.
I'll take it.
I want a yard sign that says that.
Erie's favorite Robin Hood.
Put that in my front yard.
Yeah, I'll run down to what's the copy shop down on the corner. Yeah, I'll make us a batch.
Ember and Forge, or the printing.
Copy shop, not the coffee shop.
Oh.
Copy King. That's my corner copy shop.
No Kinkos anymore?
No, Copy King's local and independent. You gotta support
I
your
kid.
DIY everything.
Back in my days, we had to go to the Kinkos to get flyers printed for our shows and then hand them out to people by hand.
Copy King.
Missed that.
We didn't have fancy telephone poles with the paste and stuff. We handed them to people and put them in their hands.
All right, back to the home, Grandpa.
You kids with your digital notifications nowadays.
Speaking of NFTs and stream exclusive merchandise, we've got these dandy social distancing variety hour stickers, which I never talk about. Designed for us by friend of the program, Douglas Bailey. Drop us a line if you want one. We'll send you one.
I would like some.
I keep. You can have a stack. I keep forgetting that they exist, and I keep forgetting to talk about them so that we can send them to people. But send us a self-addressed stamped envelope or something, and we'll send you stickers. This has been a lovely time, Brian. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for talking with us. Be well. Make pretty shirts. Let's talk soon.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun, and I appreciate being able to be here with y'all. It's a good way to spend the last part of Bad Boy Weekend.
You really did finish Bad Boy Weekend on a high note, my friend.
Absolutely.
Not with a bang, if I can say so.
Hey-o.
Bad dad joke.
Dude, you worked that all in. It
all comes full
circle.
Man. It's beautiful.
Very creative problem solving.
Well played, Mr. Morgante. Well played indeed.
All right, this has been another Social Distancing Variety Hour. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you all for your comments. Hi, Shannon Ishler. Hi, Douglas Bailey. Hi, Tommy Cangelo. Hi, other people who have scrolled down too far that I can't see you anymore. Thank you all for being with us. We will see you again next week. Look at my pretty dead horse record.
Oh, hey-o.
Take care of yourselves. Wash your hands. Wash each other's hands. We'll see you soon.